Point of inflection. I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. A meeting in Germany among Western defense officials united against Russia's invasion of Ukraine ended without resolution as to whether President Volodymyr Zelensky will get the advanced battle tanks for which he'd pleaded. This after Russia warned that if NATO further arms Ukraine with battle tanks and long-range missiles, it'll lead to a whole new level of war. It's been nearly a year since the Russian invasion. The United States' perspective has shifted during that time. Remember the unwillingness to be a participant in a three-way deal that would have had the United States backfill Poland's fleet of fighter planes after Poland gave MiG-29 fighters to Ukraine? The Biden administration said no. Initially, the administration was unwilling even to acknowledge providing Stinger anti-aircraft missiles. But with the passage of time has come a softening of the Biden administration's reluctance to go all in. Today, Ukrainian troops are in Oklahoma, being trained to operate the Patriot air defense system, which the U.S. is now supplying. The U.S. is also providing Stryker combat vehicles to transport Ukrainian soldiers on the battlefield as part of a new and massive $2.5 billion aid package. And reports suggest a U.S. willingness to greenlight Ukrainian efforts to target Crimea, annexed illegally by Russia in 2014. So what accounts for the change in U.S. position? Has the Western objective changed from giving Ukraine what it needs not to lose to arming Ukraine with what it needs to actually win? And is our weapons supply no longer tempered by concerns over provoking Putin by crossing his red line? My next guest says the latter is the wrong question to be asking. Nigel Gould-Davis is the former UK ambassador to Belarus, former head of the economic section at the British Embassy in Moscow, now senior fellow for Russia and Eurasia at the International Institute for Strategic Studies, and the author of this recent piece in The Times, Putin Has No Red Lines. Dr. Gould-Davis, a red line, that's a tripwire for escalation. Why do you think it's flawed thinking to be guided by an adversary's red lines?
Yes, I think that a red line is a bad and unhelpful metaphor in thinking about our policy towards Russia. It implies there's some special sort of category of action that, if we undertake it, will automatically, in a trigger-like way, provoke some dangerous and escalatory action. In practice, that's really not how international relations works. It's not how we should be thinking about Putin. Putin wants to assert there are such red lines, but his nuclear bluff in particular has been repeatedly called and shown to be empty since this war, since his invasion began. In practice, the actions he will take at any given point will depend upon his assessment of the risks and benefits of doing those actions. And he might claim, he might threaten that he'll do something dangerous and radical against us. But in practice, what he does or doesn't do will be based on a practical calculus. So our goal should be not to deter ourselves by fear of what he might do, but to persuade him, Putin, that escalating the war is radically against his own interests.
In simple terms, are you saying that no longer must we worry that his response might be nuclear if we do X, Y, or Z?
We should always be concerned about the possibility of nuclear escalation. There's not a zero risk of that, but our efforts should be focused not on wondering and worrying about what might cause him to do that, but to persuade him that under any circumstances, his going nuclear and breaking that taboo would invite disastrous consequences himself. So we should be aiming to deter him from going nuclear, not deterring ourselves from doing things that might cause him to go nuclear.
Dr. Gould-Davis, has there been a change in Western thinking that initially what we wanted to do was supply Ukraine with what Ukraine needs to do to repel the Russian invasion, to now, given the strength of the Ukrainian effort, hey, they can win this thing. Let's give them what they need to actually win the war?
I think that's right. And that's partly a consequence of the tenacity, bravery, and heroism and adaptability that Ukrainians themselves have shown. I also think there's a growing recognition that there's no practical distinction between, on the one hand, helping Ukraine to stave off defeat, and on the other hand, enabling Ukraine to win. Anything short of a Ukrainian victory would ultimately mean that Russia is better off and not worse off than it was at the beginning of this invasion. And that would be an intolerable outcome. It would show that flagrant aggression is rewarded. That would be an object lesson to anyone else in the world, including China, watching this. There's also no prospect that any outcome short of a Ukrainian victory and a defeat for Russia would be a stable outcome. If this war was somehow to end with Russia better off occupying territory and also violating the people on that territory, there's every expectation that Russia would in due course seek to launch a third invasion after the first of 2014, after the second of 2022. So that would not be a stable outcome. The only stable, durable outcome that serves Western security interests and international morality and international law at this point would be a defeat for Russia. But I think it's also very important for the West to send the message to Russia, the message of reassurance that if Russia were to retreat back to its internationally recognized borders, no one threatens Russia. That would be a safe and stable outcome for Russia.